Join me today as we talk a little bit about problems in the gaming industry, specifically how companies and stores are kind of starting to come at odds with each other. Welcome to the Geek Cabal channel. My name is Bobby, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about this started from a video. Oh, I can never remember the woman's name. I'll post a link down to it in the description. God, this is going to sound terrible. She's Irish. I think she's hilarious, and she talks a lot about Warhammer. And this is kind of what started this overall thought process. And she pointed out some major problems with what's about to start happening with Warhammer, apparently. And I think it's going to lead to a bigger set of problems. And again, she kind of covers this in her video, so don't want to steal her thunder. And like I said, I'll put the video down there. Definitely check it out. Give her a like and probably subscribe to her channel because she's great. It sounds like Games Workshop is going to start not allowing stores to pre-order, and they're going to maybe some kind of a lottery system for stores, and they'll sell the bulk of the product through their own website. And that is a huge problem if that's going to happen, because I don't know how many of you walked into a gaming store recently, and maybe a lot of gaming stores are different than this, but all the ones I see, Warhammer takes up a lot of real estate in the store, both between what's stocked on the shelves and the play space. So what happens when I'm sitting here and I want to go buy the latest big box set and I can't buy it from my game store? Well, I'm going to buy it online from somebody, but of course I probably can't buy it from Miniature Market or any of these other places either, so I have to buy it from Games Workshop. Okay, so now the store I'm going to gets nothing out of this. So eventually they're either going to have a bunch of crap just sitting there on the shelf that's not moving because Games Workshop releases new editions faster than, I don't know, I've got a terrible metaphor here, faster than the moon changes phases, let's go with that. And that's massive hyperbole, but they release new editions a lot, which a lot of the times invalidates old units. So once we get like 2 more editions down the road, they're just going to have a bunch of stuff just sitting there, and then which eventually they have to liquidate just to get rid of it. So now all of a sudden they go to this room. Well, is there really anything to replace it? Because Games Workshop has done their damnedest to make sure that they are the name in wargaming. And as much as I would love BattleTech to be able to take their place, and maybe that will happen because of this, as long as Catalyst can keep product flowing, because they'll have to like fire up new factories if that happens. And maybe they could, because I think BattleTech has a lot of advantages as a game. I love the lore for 40K, but don't know about the game. So so if that happens, you're going to have a massive hole. And once product support begins slipping, the game stores no longer have a major incentive to have table space dedicated to it. And again, they'll just find another game if they can. But once they do, Warhammer, that's gone. So if you're in a city and you play primarily at a gaming store and not, say, at your house because you need a massive table to play on, then you're going to stop playing in all likelihood. And so will other people, and then the game will just die there. And it'll do that in another city, in another city, another city. And it will take some game stores down with it because of the inventory issues and the table space issues I mentioned. And then the lack of sales, which will eventually impact Games Workshop, because this brilliant idea, no one's going to be buying their stuff because they have no place to play, because they can't buy the stuff at the store. And so the store doesn't support it. It's going to be a chain reaction. You can clearly see what this sequence of events is probably going to be here. And the only thing that'll stop it will be if another game supplants it, which will still be bad for Games Workshop, because their sales will dry up. So, yeah, so that's bad. But this is also kind of an overall symptom of where we stand at the moment with the games industry. We're kind of in the middle of a weird state of flux where I can go and buy a 3D printer and print things now. And like with BattleTech, the rules of the game state that you can use proxies, which include 3D printed models. So that game actively, I'm not going to say it actively encourages it, but it doesn't actively discourage it. Now, a game like HeroClix, I don't think so because of the dial. And I think you do actually have to use official figures. But that won't stop people from figuring out how to do that at home. And if they do it at home, unlike, say, Warhammer, you don't need a gigantic table to play HeroClix. And so I could see people dipping out of the main tournaments and stuff and just doing that. But it applies to other games. And there's nothing stopping you from doing that with D&D miniatures, because you only use those at your house primarily. I mean, you might use them if you go to a store and play, and there, what's the store going to do? The store can't force you to use official D&D miniatures from WizKids. Like, that's nowhere in the rules. Like, the rules don't even call for you using miniatures. That's just an option. So we have all these things that people, myself included, are spending lots of money on, that there are cheaper alternatives that aren't illegal. So this isn't like pirating movies or something where there's a potential moral question involved. Although I have seen folks that have put forth the idea that, well, these companies, primarily video game companies, but it's becoming digital movie companies too, want to have this concept where you don't really buy anything. Well, if you're not really buying anything, theoretically, are you stealing anything? I mean, I'm pretty sure the answer to that question is still yes, but something to ponder. So, so the problem becomes, you can just print this stuff out at your house. You can get a PDF off the internet of the rules and go to town. You can just cut the company out of their money entirely. And so companies, in an effort to try to make more money, are trying to sell directly to customers. And if you sell directly to your customers, that cuts the store out. Well, eventually, if there's no store, some of those games required the store to allow the customers to play. And so then those customers leave too. And so we're in this weird situation where the two sides, the stores and the companies, need each other, okay? Because without the stores, the companies won't exist. You can't fund everything just for games at Gen Con and PAX East and Origins and what have you. Like, you need weekly tournaments for a lot of these games to have players, to have the critical mass you need for the game to succeed. And so they've got to do something. Now, WizKids, to their credit, has tried various things for HeroClix tournaments. They have prize support, and just other gimmicks and everything, pre-releases. And so, I think, and they're trying, so I think they're ahead of the curve. And like Catalyst, parts of what they do, like there's certain things that only they sell, like this handsome t-shirt here, t-shirts, hats, stuff related to the game but not needed to play the game. And then as far as the rule books, they sell PDFs, except at conventions where they sell hard copies. But on their website, it's all PDFs. If you want a hard copy, you have to go to a secondary source. So I think that's an important halfway point with them. And then the miniatures themselves, they sell them at full retail, knowing that any online retailer is going to sell them for less than they are. So, they're generally not cutting into a retail market, except for like the handful of things that only they carry that are from the Kickstarter, which I think is literally one set of figures that they were clear in the Kickstarter. they will be the only people selling them. So it's not a surprise to anyone, and they are very, very limited. But the other stuff, if you want a hard copy, you have to buy it from an online retailer or a physical retailer. You can't buy it through Catalyst. It's all PDFs. So, I think that's a good compromise. What Games Workshop is doing is just bad, because they don't allow proxies. You have to use official models, and if the main place you can get them is only them, that stores aren't going to support the game. Why would they? That would be like me if I owned a restaurant, or back when I used to run a restaurant, kind of. If I let people bring in food from a different store and sit at my tables, I gain no benefit from that, and in fact, it's going to cost me, because it's opportunity cost. I could have real customers paying. I'm going to have to deal with cleanup. I'm going to have to deal with my employees are going to have to at least somewhat keep an eye on those people, just in case they decide to do stupid things and tear the place up. I mentioned trash. They're taking up space in the parking lot in all likelihood, which again is opportunity cost. They're going to probably use my restroom, which they might destroy. And, they're going to use potentially, the toilet paper, cleaning chemicals, and everything else in the restroom. So, and they will have no reason to buy my products because they brought their own food. So it's just a dumb idea if you're a game store to let people come in and play games that you don't sell. Unless you are running the game to try to increase interest in coming into game, and you've got some in your collection, and you want to, there's a quasi-local game store to me that does this. There's a guy, one of the owners, he brings in some games that he's got, some older games, and tries to get people interested in them, to try to get them interested in gaming. And so then he can be like, okay, well, if you like this game, you might be able to find it somewhere out here in the wilderness, but this other game that we conveniently sell right over here is similar to it. You should check it out. It's a sales tactic. That's different from, here's the table to play Warhammer, guys. Don't mess up the store while you're not buying anything from me. Unless you're renting the table to them, in which case, okay, fine, that makes sense, because you're making some money off of it, and maybe they'll buy drinks and stuff while they're there, because any gaming store that actually has people come in at this point also sells drinks and snacks and things like that. And, money from that can be decent. So, and without seriously overcharging people. But anyway, so there's this weird situation, and the game companies and the game stores are going to have to somehow come to some kind of agreement, detente, something. And you got something kind of similar with comic book companies and comic book stores, only comic book companies don't have an alternate route to sell their comic books. They just seem to think they can somehow get by without comic book stores, or at least some of the creators do anyway. But if you follow them on Twitter, you realize some of them are just completely vapid idiots who don't understand the first thing about economics or business or the real world, and they have no business being anything resembling the public face of a company. And if I were Disney, I would fire all of them, because they're destroying their company. But that's a whole other rant for a whole other time. So anyway, I don't know that I don't have a proposed solution beyond there should be retailer chain exclusives, maybe, to get people into stores. That's something that Catalyst is working on, where they have exclusives for certain retail chains, like they have the Target exclusive starter set. They have a number of Barnes & Noble exclusives, and I believe they have others that are specifically for retail mass, like certain elements of the mass market chain, where they go to certain people. But at the same time, a year after they're introduced, they become available for broad purchase. Don't know if that's the case with the Target box set or not, because the guy that does a lot of that wasn't there for that meeting, so we don't know for that one for sure. But the others, that's what happens. So they have their exclusive. If you want it the first year, you've got to buy it from them, so it brings you into their store, checks other things out, and then a year later, everyone else can buy them. So, it's a nice compromise. And maybe that's the kind of thing that some of these other companies need to look at, because they need the game stores or people aren't going to buy their games. You know, not in the numbers they need to satisfy them, because they're not like board games where, you know, you buy them and the intention is to play them at your house with a few people you know. It's easier to find 3 other people to play a board game than to convince 3 other people to sink hundreds of dollars into plastic miniatures that you have to disassemble from the sprues, put them together, and paint them. You can ask Chad whenever he's on here. He has not convinced me to play Warhammer 40k, and I spend all kinds of money on all kinds of other silly things. But I won't spend money on that, or not much. I have a handful of models, but that's pretty much it. So anyway, folks, let me know, do you have a proposed solution? What do you think of the situation? Just a problem where you are? Do you think Games Workshop is being colossally stupid here, or just greedy, or what have you? You know, let me know down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Always like that fun stuff here on YouTube. It helps grow the channel, which, you know, we always like. And thank you for all the folks who've recently been subscribing. I notice our subscriber count's been steadily climbing here. And let me know if this is the kind of content you guys want to see. If any of you made it deep into this video, let me know. Please let us know, like, what brought you to the channel. Because sometimes, like, some of the videos that get a lot of hits don't get a lot of subscribers, and others that don't get many hits do get subscribers. And I'm just kind of curious. I look at the analytics, but it's a little difficult to do the subscriber thing. Gotta go video by video. So anyway, thanks folks for watching, and we'll see you later.